What's up, guys? It's Robbie Greenfield of RobTG4, and I want to quickly leave you an update as to why crypto is spiraling down along with the rest of the stock market, particularly a lot of the tech stocks. So earlier this week, we had Chairman Powell of the Federal Reserve state that they were not going to create any reductions in the federal interest rate, and that they were going to continue to see how the market developed over the rest of the year. And there were effectively forecasts that in the next meeting in September, that such a rate cut would occur. It would be about 25 bips or 0.25% from the current, which is around 5.5%. And almost 2 days after that, right, pretty much immediately after that, we had the July jobs report come out, and it was not very good. The forecast was that there was going to be about 4.1% unemployment. That unemployment rate was about 4.3%, and the U.S. only added around 114,000 jobs in aggregate over the course of the month. And so this is indicating that there's more unemployment than expected, and a lot of people just aren't working to the degree that the market expected. And so this is arising a lot of fears about not only us going into recession, which I arguably think that we've been in and have been kind of artificially redefining over the course of COVID, but it also puts into question as to how hard of a stop we will be going into that recession, right? Or what's called a hard landing versus a soft landing, in which you ease into it. And since this report has come out, the market has forecasted that there will be a 0.5%, so 50 bip reduction in the next meeting by about 30%. So right now, I believe it's about 64%. So it's effectively doubled. The market expectation of the federal interest rate being cut by even more has doubled. And the market expectation of us actually going down a full percent before the end of the year has greatly increased as well to about 86%, which obviously was not the case just a few days ago. And so given this, these recession fears, a lot of capital has taken flight into safer and less riskier investments. Obviously, crypto having a rather high risk profile, regardless of the existence of the BTC ETFs and the ETH ETFs. And so you've seen the market take a rather hard hit, I believe, going from around 69,000 to what is right now at the time of this recording, around 61,000. I would imagine that this would go, even further down. And unfortunately, at the same time, we've seen the increase of the VIX by about 30% in the last day. And in fact, it's only, it's been increasing over the past month. So it's increased about 90%. And a third of that has been in the past day / kind of 5 days. And again, the VIX is the volatility index. It's directly correlated with the state of geopolitical and economic stability, of global financial markets, and of course, thus the health of crypto overall. And so what we're starting to see are two compounding factors to where Bitcoin and thus the rest of crypto is going. At first, we saw a relatively low VIX. Around 14, 16. There were high, political hopes regarding the U.S. November election that Trump was likely being elected because Biden, effectively had dementia. Obviously we saw a lot of BTC inflows, right, in terms of the ETF. And so those were all positive factors as influencing, the rise of Bitcoin from this neutral market that we've been seeing over the past few months. But at the same time, we're now seeing a lot of recessionary fears that counteract a lot of these positive effects, because recessionary fears are directly correlated to Bitcoin and the rest of the market not doing well. And so the increase of the VIX near this 30 score index, which is not good, right? 23 is very, very high, much higher than 14 and 16, and it's getting toward the point at which things are volatile. But then, of course, you also see Biden, dropping out in exchange for Harris, which could be the continuation of regulation by enforcement, via the SEC, and a continuation of Bidenomics and his position against crypto. which seems to have softened a little bit, but people are still a bit trepidatious in the market as to how well that type of presidency would go. And then on top of that, you have a three-front war developing in the Middle East between Israel, Hezbollah in Lebanon, Gaza, or Hamas more specifically, in Gaza, and then of course Iran. And then of course you have this recent decision not to cut the federal interest rate, and then literally 2-3 days later you have a pretty poor jobs report. And so my overall sentiment is that obviously for those who are holding long on Bitcoin and ETH, you can, but expect losses. I'd imagine probably 20 to 30% losses in the near term at the least. Hopefully the market recovers and we see a better jobs report in August than we do in July, but I'm not quite hopeful. And so I think a lot of the forecast of Bitcoin being 100,000 by the end of the year, you can pretty much flush in the toilet. I think the best case scenario, we're probably going to see mid 70s, like low 80s. And we're not going to see the breakout success of ETH or any of the altcoins for at least the next 6 to 8 months, going into 2025, or even beyond that. And I think we actually need to be quite cautious that things don't go in the opposite direction if the Fed needs to cut these rates a lot faster than they initially thought, right? Because the target right now in 2026 was to end that year at around 3.3%. But if we're talking about full percentage, rate cuts now by the end of 2024, then, we could actually expect a lower interest rate, in the future. So I'll keep you updated as to how these things progress, but just wanted to give you context as to why these things are happening. It's really, really important to note that as crypto becomes increasingly institutionalized, it becomes more tied to what's happening around the world rather than this black sheep that just does whatever it wants to do. And we will see. So I appreciate your time, and until next time, peace.